Well, I'm over here bawling my eyes out because one of the best shows on television has come to an end. Bones. But don't take it from me.
Get ready for the best TV show you have ever seen. Bones. That show was the perfect combination of procedure and banter. These commercials ever run during Bones?
Did you catch rewatch Bones here? Nice touch. Yes, after 6 hell-raising seasons, Lucifer has come to an end, and I kid you not, it took me till the end of the second to last episode to realize Lucifer's license plate isn't Fellini, it's Fallen One.
I'm not dumb, I'm smart.
Now, I don't want to waste any of your time, there is so much to unpack here, so let's get right into it. Oh, and throw me a like and subscribe, I come out with new devilish videos every week. The series finale begins with Lucifer and Chloe in one hell of a predicament. Okay, I'll stop with the puns. Rory, their daughter from the future, has been taken hostage by Vincent Lamech, who you may remember as being the dude responsible for Dan's death in season 5. Seriously, the French translation of his last name means the dude. Unlike most seasons of Lucifer, which sees our titular character and team take on a major antagonist, last season was Lucifer's brother Michael, this season focuses more on the emotional journey of Lucifer becoming God. At the end of season 5, he defeated Michael, yet weeks after his victory has yet to ascend to the throne. Something is holding him back. And matters are made worse when a girl from the future appears claiming to be Lucifer's daughter, telling Lucifer he'll disappear on August 4th, abandoning her and Chloe. This is the main emotional driving force of the season. Rory, in the future, angered that her father didn't even show up to Chloe's deathbed to say goodbye, is so angered that it allows her to teleport back in time days before Lucifer's supposed disappearance. She wants to make sure that the man who abandoned her before she was even born and wouldn't even show up to her mother's deathbed pays. So much of the season is Lucifer struggling with this fact. He hated his father, God, for abandoning him as a child and can't believe that he would do the same thing to his own daughter. Rory tells him that he was last seen on August 4th, I'm assuming 2021, at 10th and Swanson in Los Angeles. So if he just steers clear of that area on that day, he hopes to change fate. But Lamech has different plans. In the penultimate episode, he escapes from prison after one of the angels answered a prayer which set a lion on the loose. And if that sounds crazy, it totally is. You see, with no God on the throne, the angels have been answering prayers willy-nilly with some crazy unintended consequences. Unintended consequences that could actually lead to the end of the world. This puts Lucifer in a tough situation as deep down inside, he doesn't want to be God. He hasn't found his true calling.
I've realized that being God it's just not my calling.
This is why, for much of the season, Lucifer puts off becoming God, and it's only when his conscious and subconscious mind are finally in sync, something that doesn't happen until episode 8, that he realizes being God is just not for him. There is another purpose that has yet to be revealed. This leaves the job open for Amenadiel, who has always been the angel's #1 choice. Dan, who was sent to hell and brought back to Earth as a ghost, finds out he's able to inhabit bodies and does so with Lamech, the man who killed him. Lucifer tells him about when and where he'll die and his biggest weakness, his daughter. But what Lucifer and Dan don't know is that Lamech is listening in. He'll use this info to later kidnap Rory and bring Lucifer to the exact spot he's supposed to die. But Chloe and Lucifer aren't giving up without a fight. They're partners till the end, which also happens to be the title of the last episode. Rory, who came back in time fueled by the anger she had for her father, realizes that, ironically, she was the one responsible for her own abandonment.
The reason I didn't have a father growing up.
It was her kidnapping that eventually gets Lucifer killed. For those of you who may not have finished the season, Chloe is currently pregnant with Rory as future Rory is tied up. Lamech and his crew tear off Rory's bladed feathers. In episode 3, we saw just how sharp these are, being able to cut through stone. These are the only things that can physically hurt Lucifer, as we'll see when he's cut by one of these thugs brandishing a bladed feather. Lucifer is supposed to be invulnerable, at least from non-supernatural weapons like guns and bombs. However, these feathers are different. They come from Rory, who is half angel, half human, so they can hurt him.
Not just the bait. You're also the weapon.
Some may say it's because he's vulnerable around Chloe, but that went away in season 5, and if that were the case, he would have succumbed to the gunshot wounds he'll later sustain while fighting alongside Chloe in the shipping container room. Lamech has a personal vendetta against Lucifer. Near the end of season 5, Lucifer whispered something in his ear that caused him to experience endless suffering and torture in his mind, a fate worse than death. And part of the reason Lamech has captured Rory is for Lucifer to reverse this. If he doesn't, he'll kill Rory. There's a real kick-ass action sequence entirely done in slow motion as Chloe and Lucifer infiltrate Lamech's lair. This is set to a song called My Body is a Cage, where the lyrics read, "My body is a cage, my mind holds the key," which is fitting since much of the season deals with how our minds hold the key to unlocking what's holding us back. There's no better example of this than when Lucifer loses his ability to fly, having to dig deep inside of himself to find the key, metaphorically, so that he can fly again. Chloe has a hand-to-hand fight with one of the thugs, and it's a nice callback to when Chloe trained with Mazikeen earlier in the season.
I want to spar, bitch.
This time, however, Chloe doesn't have Azrael's necklace, a trinket which gave her super strength and invulnerability, which we saw at the beginning of the season. It also made her lose control, so it had to be taken away from her, making her vulnerable. And vulnerable she becomes, getting stabbed in the chest, leaving only Lucifer to take on Lamech. Lucifer leaves injured Chloe, knowing that if the time loop is correct, she'll survive the injury. And then we get our final confrontation. Lamech wants Lucifer to get the torturous voices out of his head, or else he'll kill Rory. But Lucifer tells him the pain he's feeling isn't really pain at all, it's guilt. This gets at the core of what the show believes hell to be, an endless torture where one faces their worst guilt over and over again. These are referred to as hell loops, and as we found out at the end of season 5 with Lee Garner, one can overcome their loop and make it to heaven. To truly torture someone, you must know what they desire. This is why you'll often hear Lucifer ask suspects what they want more than anything. But we've never really heard what Lucifer desires. He wants to see his daughter grow up, to be there for her, to be the father she deserves, and the one he never had. Lucifer's death would quash those desires. This is what would cause him the most suffering. And Lucifer is willing to take on this suffering, actually offering himself up to Lamech. Lamech was going to kill Rory, but Lucifer is the better prize. And just as Lamech is about to kill him, Rory is strengthened with rage and breaks free of her confines, lifting Lamech into the air. Now she could kill him here. We even see how her face turns similar to Lucifer's devil face. But it's Lucifer who wants to show him mercy. Rory has to be better than him.
You have to be better than him. You have to be better than me.
And Rory relents, putting him down. They embrace, but Lamech makes one last effort to take them down before being shot by Chloe and impaled on a bunch of angel feathers. His last words are that he wants to see what Dan saw when he left his body, that bright heavenly light, but for Lamech it'll only be darkness. We'll later see him in hell. Dan's story arc this season dealt with him trying to overcome his guilt so he could get out of hell. The only problem is that he doesn't know what that guilt is. It's only until he enters Lamech's body and says one last goodbye to his daughter that he understands his guilt is rooted in not believing he was the dad Trixie deserved. What he doesn't realize is that Trixie thinks he was the best dad. She loves him unconditionally and there's nothing to feel guilty about at all. And with this realization, Dan enters the white light and ascends to heaven. As paramedics and police arrive on scene, it looks like Lucifer and the gang have saved the day. But if he finally broke this time loop, how is Rory still there? The only reason Rory's here in the first place is Lucifer's abandonment. But if she's never abandoned, then how is she here? So when the gang found out that Trixie was approached by Dan and Lamech's body, they realized it was Lucifer who helped Dan realize his guilt and break him out of the hell loop, just like he did with Lee in season 5. Then it dawns on Lucifer. This was the reason Rory was sent back in time, for him to realize his proper calling in life is to go back to hell, not as its ruler, but as its healer. In essence, Lucifer is sacrificing being with his family to save the millions of souls in hell. This realization prompts Rory to be sucked back to her time, and it's ironically her who makes Chloe and Lucifer promise not to change anything in their timeline, because if they do, Lucifer may never come to the realization that he must be the healer of hell. This is why Chloe never tells Rory the real story about what happened to her father, and why Lucifer doesn't show up on Chloe's deathbed, because if he did, it would throw the entire timeline off, and Rory would never get angry, go back in time, resulting in Lucifer's revelation that he must be the healer of lost souls. I hope everyone's following. I actually thought this was a brilliant way of tying together this loop and explaining a lot of the mysteries of the final season. At Lux, which Lucifer gives half of to Amenadiel in episode 9, Lucifer says goodbye to Chloe. It's fitting that the first and last time Chloe and Lucifer meet takes place in the same location with the same line.
Lucifer Morningstar. Is that a stage name or something?
God-given, I'm afraid.
Lucifer Morningstar. Is that like a stage name or something?
God-given, I'm afraid.
It's also fitting that Lux literally means light, as the camera transitions us to the darkness of hell where Lucifer will begin his job of healing. They play the piano song Heart and Soul together, a fitting title considering they have each other's heart and soul, and Lucifer is off to mend the souls of those below. Amenadiel ends up on the throne in heaven with the other angels basically showing him their allegiance. He'll also be able to freely travel between heaven and earth to see his half-angel, half-human son, Charlie, who we even see sprouting some wings. Whether or not Charlie would have celestial powers was a big concern for Amenadiel in previous seasons. It also looks like Ella and Carol are together. Ella had a huge reluctance to ever trust a man again after it turned out her ex-boyfriend was a serial killer, but she's overcome that and looks to be running the foundation Lucifer set up for her to help young girls in STEM programs. Chloe has also returned to the LAPD. We saw in episode 9 Amenadiel ask her if she'd be his personal liaison between heaven and the LAPD. We also see Officer Harris, who looks to have finally been promoted after years being assigned to the beat as punishment for pointing out the injustices going on within the force. We see Dan in heaven with his true love, Charlotte Richards. Now you may be asking yourself, I thought she left with God to a different universe in season 5. That was actually Goddess, who had taken over Charlotte's body in previous seasons, so Charlotte's actual soul would be in heaven, even though her job was an attorney. Here we see the happily married couple Mazikeen and Eve taking down a bad guy together. Maz even gets a phone call, which I assume is the news Chloe has given birth to Rory. The whole crew celebrates as we fast forward in time to where Rory is with her mother on her deathbed, now with the knowledge of everything Chloe went through to make sure the timeline happened the way it was supposed to. It must have taken a tremendous amount of strength to do what she did, and as old Chloe passes away, she is brought to heaven where she sees Amenadiel, who says,
Are you ready to go home?
Not gonna lie, I was like bawling my eyes out here, but not to worry, Rory will be able to visit her mother in heaven. She is half angel after all. In hell, Lucifer has begun the process of helping lost souls overcome their guilt, in a room that's exactly the same as his favorite therapist, Linda. It's pretty funny then that one of the 3 people Lucifer is helping is Linda's ex-husband, Rhys Getty, a man who sought to prove that Lucifer was the devil. He complains that he keeps making the same mistakes in his hell loop, but Lucifer says there's hope. If the devil can change for the better, anyone can. While Rhys wants to change the past, Lucifer tells him that's the wrong approach. One needs to accept the past because that's what makes them who they are today. And what better example than Lucifer, a man who was caught in his own loop of sex, violence, and debauchery, who escaped and became a better man for it. Lamech even pops in, offering that if nothing works, he can shoot Rhys in the face. Yeah, he's gonna need a little bit more time in therapy. But the session is paused when there's a knock on the door. It's Chloe, who has chosen to come down from heaven to be Lucifer's partner. They are partners till the end, after all. They kiss as the door closes on them, do not disturb. It's a heartwarming ending that gives all our characters some closure, with an underlying message that no matter what our past sins, we can all change and are worthy of forgiveness. With that being said, it's time for me to make like Lucifer and rewatch all of Bones. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm always coming out with new content. For more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.